with Spyglass Lending. Brian Murdock, founder and CEO of All World Communications, is here today. He has joined us. We appreciate him being here. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, man.
And again, thank you for coming on. I like to dive right into it. It's important to hear your story. It's important we understand who you are. So if you don't mind talking about yourself a little bit, tell us where you're from originally, where you landed at now, and tell us a little bit about your life.
Yeah. So again, you already introduced me, Brian Murdock. I'm born and raised in South Bend, Indiana, home of the Fighting Irish. Even though I am not a Notre Dame fan, we grow up and go to school a couple blocks away from Notre Dame. So very, very good friends who are Notre Dame people, and obviously a family over there.
Of course. You're talking to an Indiana Hoosier, married, Notre Dame Irish family, but I'm certainly not a fan myself. So we'll get along very well.
Yes, we will. So yeah, man, I'm from South Bend. Went to school there. Went to Ball State for a couple years. I tell people I played at playing football. And then I'm from a very strict and rigorous Christian family.
Mm-hmm.
I had never endeavored into anything like drinking, never dated a girl, never done anything, had never been to a dance. So my first semester at college was pretty interesting, to say the least, my first year.
Right. Did you just completely go the other way? Were you one of those? It was like, oh wow, the taste of freedom just over the edge.
100%.
Yeah.
It was all in. Like, what is this beautiful, bright new world?
Right, of course.
Did that. My father did a great thing of taking me out of school for a couple years for me to assess my life. My father owned Murdock and Sons Construction growing up. People in South Bend know what that is. Did a lot of work at Notre Dame, did a lot of street work and a lot of government work. So after those 2 years of me working with my hands and knowing that is not a choice that I wanted to be in my career.
If I may ask, what were you doing for him exactly? I mean, were you
I was a laborer.
You were labor, yeah.
Oh, so what we were building. So my father at the time built churches. He did a lot of road work. He did a lot of work at Iron Tech, Iron Code. I don't believe they're still in South Bend anymore, but so he did a lot of engineers and everything. So just a regular general contractor making it happen.
Yep. Very good.
So transferred out. I said I would never do construction, and we'll talk about that later on. Transferred to Purdue, where my sister was, just to go to school.
No, man, I said we were going to get along, and now you had to bring up Purdue, and come on. How are you going to tell a Hoosier you ended up at Purdue?
Yeah, I mean, we all make choices. I just happen to make a good one.
You're right, by the way. I take it all back. Purdue is a phenomenal school. I mean, obviously well known with an engineering program like no other, but a great school all around, certainly.
Yes, and we have a family member who went to IU and has done extremely well. She's now a doctor, so I can say nothing negative about IU.
Two great institutions. We'll agree on that.
Agreed. So I was at Purdue, was enjoying it there, learning a lot. What my focus really was, what my passion, I should say, was, even when I was at Ball State, was music, and I wanted to sing. So when I transferred to Purdue, I actually met a couple of people, and they were like, oh, you really should do this singing thing. And so I decided I was going to go for it. So I was at Purdue for a couple of years. I almost done with school and just left. I left. I'm going to be a singer.
What type of singing?
I was a soul singer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
You got that deep voice, man. I bet that resonated for a while.
Yeah. It was great. But the biggest thing with me as a young man was understanding the completion of task. And so starting a task and completing a task, that was never, it wasn't a focus. I thought, okay, cool, I'm going to do this, and then someone's going to just grab me and I'm going to be a star.
No.
I know I can sing, but that's not the way it is. You still have to put in the work. No matter what it is, you've got to put in the work. So I did that in Chicago, moved to, fast forward, I'm now in LA.
Mm-hmm.
LA, and I'm singing. I'm working with some really cool people, singing at some really cool shows, but things aren't happening for me because, again, I am under the impression that me being a good singer is all I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave myself a couple years. My buddies are in real estate here in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Families are doing really well in real estate, and we'd go out and they'd be like, oh, Brian's got no money, so we'll take care of him. Brian's got no money, we'll take care of him. I was like, well, this whole Brian's got no money thing's not working for me.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I blamed it on the music. This is why I'm broke. So I was like, let me go get a job. And that's the beginning, really, of my career in Los Angeles. I started working for an Avaya business partner out of Ventura. So I would drive to Ventura a couple days a week, and then work from home, and then go see clients.
Wait, if I may, I want to kind of paint a picture here for a second. So
Absolutely.
anybody who doesn't live in Los Angeles understands this, right? There's LA County, there's Ventura County. So where in LA County were you living at?
I lived in Brentwood.
Okay, so you're in Brentwood and you're driving to Ventura County. So you're popping onto the 405 and getting
the
on
101.
getting on the 101 and getting all the way up there. And what I mean, you know, wrong time of day, you know, that could be well over an hour each way, right? Maybe
Yes.
more.
Yes, sir, it was. Yes, sir, it was. But hey, these are the things that we do as,
Sure.
I tell people, as Americans, you take the opportunity, you run with it. So that was just one side. Once I got up and running, they put an office in Orange County. So I have to drive an hour the other way.
Then you're going back the other way, right? Down the 405 to the 5. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I started to really, really love it. Meeting different clients from very different kind of businesses, business structures, and solving problems. That's something I have a spirit of wanting to help. And so I saw that using technology to help people. And so it was pretty cool.
What year was this, by the way, if I may ask?
This was 2004.
2004.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, such a great time frame to think about, right? In terms of you're talking about leveraging technology and all that. Here we are almost 20 years later, but we're 10 years into the internet at that point, right? 93 it comes on for the most part, and those first few years are just barren wasteland. So, you know, we're pre the cell phone taking off, certainly pre social media popping off, but you're thinking about it and you already know that there's a future there, leveraging technology to help people.
It's coming. So the cell phones were out in 2004, but what wasn't out was the smartphone.
Right.
So we all had the Razor, we all had the cool pocket PC, we all had those phones.
Sure.
I remember back in the days, like I tell people now, because it's very different. Obviously, we're a little bit older, but going out, when people actually went out to go out, as opposed to going out to take pictures to post.
Right.
So that's the biggest difference.
Difference. But I'm thinking like BlackBerry Palm Pilot. I mean, that was the huge thing at that time, right? Kind of 2000 to 2001 to 2005. That 4 to 5 year time.
And then it transitioned to the T-Mobile Sidekick.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So was there, and the biggest thing is seeing what you brought up, the internet, seeing the changes of dial-up to T1s in the business sense, to T1, which is 1.5 download speeds, and then going to bonded T1s. And people are like, what is that? So going on bonded T1, you can add 4 1.5 T1s together. And so people thinking that having 6 megs down, they were like really killing it. To where we are right now.
Where we are now. I mean, we're streaming right now. We're streaming across 3 platforms here. You got LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook all at once.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you definitely can't do that with 6 minutes. I can tell you that.
Different time, but
Different time. So I work for that company, G Solutions. As I told you, I'm from a very kind of conservative, strict family. And one thing that my family has always pressed upon us was respect of our elders. So with that company that I was with, I did a meeting with Musicians Institute. I will never forget it. I'll give them a shout out. I did a meeting with them with my, at that time, vice president of the company that I was working for. And this is a life lesson if you have brokers, dealers, any young salespeople. This guy was pushing so hard the solution that was the wrong solution on the client. And I knew that it was the wrong solution, but I'm supposed to be respectful, so I'm quiet. But I'm seeing the nonverbal cues of my client who's loved me for the past year and a half that I've nurtured this relationship that I'm ready. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm about to have 12 buildings. And then he just went radio silent. So I transitioned for 1 year into entertainment and worked with one of my buddies there, helping him set up events here in LA, which was amazing. I understand. Man, the most fun that you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Got to hang out with so many celebrities, musicians, athletes. I was like, this is how they get these kids to work for $15,000.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not a kid. I cannot do this. I was like, that is really fun, guys. I'm going to go back to technology because I know that makes money.
Yeah.
So did that, went to a different company based out of Florida. And I was just their independent contracted guy, kind of making things happen out in the field. Their model was to just call people. Where my model has always been really solution selling, getting out, seeing what the problem is, understanding from a first principle what's going on with that client. And so from there, it kind of took off. My business as 1099 with them really took off. I did really well. And then as clients, all we did was phone systems at that time. And so clients would be like, hey, well, I want someone to do these security cameras. I want someone to do this network cabling. I want someone to do these other things. And I go to my company, hey, can we do this? And they're like, no, I need you to focus on phones.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, but it's done. Like I am the guy. And they're like, no, Brian, we focus on phones. I said, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to figure this out.
Right. You stay focused on phones, and I'm going to figure this out and give the client everything they need.
I'm going to give the client exactly what they're asking of me.
Yeah. As you said, solution selling. So
there we go, man. Solution selling, baby. I found out to find other contractors that were in the business who could actually provide the services that the client was requesting. So I did that and did that very successfully for a while. My buddy worked for, at the time, Arden, and then Arden sold their portfolio to Brookfield Properties. So he's working for Brookfield Properties. So I've been working with them for years and years now. And so at some point he called me up and Ryan was like, hey, I've got a big deal in San Francisco. I think they're going to want to use you. And I was like, let me go call my company. This was like literally my last swing with the company I was with in Florida. I was like, hey, this is going to be a big deal. They want us to do the cabling for this entire floor. And they're like, Brian, we've told you this.
Brian, how many times can we have this conversation?
And I was like, no problem. I'm going to go figure it out again. So I called one of my buddies because, Purdue is an amazing school. And so we have so many resources of just exceptional people. I called one of my buddies.
I feel like there was a little dig at me, but yeah, we'll take it.
No, not at all. Just talking about how great Purdue is. And I was like, hey, do you know anyone that can actually run the cable at this job? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, absolutely, I got you. He's like, you get that deal done and I'm going to send you a large sum of money. And I was like, it's going to be done tomorrow. I did the deal. He sent the money, and I was like, okay, he sent that really fast. I think I really need to assess if I should just be a 1099 for this company or if I should start my own company.
There you go.
So
A real
2012
make or break moment in your life, right? That's
was
one of those.
So 2012, All World Communications was born. Born out of the fact that I believe that I can solve problems.
Yeah, it's a great name, by the way. I just want to say that I'm throwing that out there just to pay a little lip service here. Yes, that's a great name. All World Communications is a great name.
Thank you very much. And our goal for the company is to bring people together and connect the world. Yeah. That is it. It's not a lot, but it is a lot. But I believe that it is possible.
It's a great pillar to have. And essentially, you started doing everything, right? I mean,
I did. So we do security, access control, which people who are using key fobs, proxy readers, things like that. We install that. We work with companies like Latch, who went public last year. We work with very large companies, Brookfield, Uncommon Developers, which is an up-and-coming large developer here in Los Angeles. And just doing the work, like I say, any technology need that our client has, we feel like we can figure out what that problem is and present a solution to that problem for the client.
What's the largest company you work with?
The largest company we work with is Brookfield.
How many employees are they at now?
They're like a $500 billion.
500 billion, yeah. So it's hard to say exactly how many employees specifically, but there you go. We'll talk gross rev. That's a sizable number, certainly. So
we're blessed. We're blessed to be able to work with them, to work with Levi's, like I said, Uncommon, toy company that everyone knows. It's a privately owned toy company, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say their name.
We'll just keep it at that, and those listening can use their imagination.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, man, that's it. The next steps or the next evolution of All World Communications is our process of creating change in America by solving our socioeconomic problems, by going out and going into communities of underserved and teaching them skills of technology, teaching them how to manage a network, how to pull network cable, how to terminate cable, how to install, and all the things that people talk about STEM. And it's just because of seeing over the years, most people see the news. I think it's ITT, all the kids that had their loans relieved because the company made promises of jobs and things like that. I am a huge America fan. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge capitalism fan. Mm. But I believe that capitalism has to be for the good. And if we are being honest with ourselves, a diverse America is the best America. And to have a diverse America, we have to share opportunities. And opportunities means not money, but sharing access to information. And it makes America freaking amazing.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's a term I like to use that I've never really heard before, but it's this notion of healthy capitalism, because capitalism has been just dragged through the mud more and more and more, right? I mean, you talk, and we're going to talk about this for a second because you mentioned what the next evolution of All World Communications is, and certainly a lofty goal and reaching out to the communities. And obviously that's about reaching the youth, but the youth, I mean, the percentage of those who will tell you that they would happily run towards socialism or happily even run towards communism if they could, is astounding. If the numbers are to be believed, it's scary out there, certainly, because you're also talking to a very big capitalist and a number of reasons. And I'm with you, and a lover of this country as well. But what do we think the issue is here, and how are you going to solve it?
I think the largest underlying issue is, like I said, the access to information. A lot of people we'll just go to a simple thing. If I'd never met Aaron Pfeffer or never met anyone that looked like Aaron Pfeffer, and someone who I grew up said, hey, everyone that looks like Aaron Pfeffer has an A and a P in their name, they're terrible people. And if this is a person that I trust, then anytime that I come in contact with that person, I'm going to just assume that that is true. And a lot of people, they just have these notions of what I call nonsense.
Yeah.
And so you start from that level. If you have a notion of nonsense programmed into your mind that this person is bad, that if this person has made this amount of money, then they are bad.
Yeah.
If this person, then it's just foolishness. And we just have to, at some point, again, be honest with ourselves and say, we all see the world with different lenses. Let's start there. We see the world with different lenses, and that's okay. So we're all going to have different opinions about things.
But this nonsense, this foolishness,
Yes.
stems from this disinformation you're talking about. I mean, specific, like targeted disinformation, misinformation campaigns, especially through social media. And that's hard. That's now hard to counteract when the nonsense seeps through to the youth, because they're targeted purposefully.
Yeah. But it's people like you, and I would be forward to say people like me, getting out, speaking your mind, and being honest and open, and having what I call civil discourse. Like, it's okay. The two of us, we don't have to agree, but we can still be friends.
It's better if we don't agree, right? If we're just sitting on the same side of the aisle, preaching to each other or ourselves. I mean, what good is that, right? How
That's
are we
exactly,
supposed to have the discourse if we just agreed on everything? That wouldn't help.
that's exactly right. How are things actually done if every time someone says, "Yep, I agree," and we are in a place right now where if there is a disagreement, then that makes you a bad person, and
Oh,
that's a big problem.
that's a huge problem. So how's all world communications? What are you doing specifically to help counter this? And what is your focus now?
The focus with All World Communications is, as I spoke to you earlier off camera, working with soon, hopefully at the beginning of next month, with the city of LA with workforce development and getting kids and training them on the things that we were talking about, training them on low voltage, training them on networking, getting them out into the workforce and showing them a path to career creation, not a path to a dead end job. And working at a McDonald's, Burger King, those are cool as a good start for people.
Mhm.
But it's not a path, in my opinion, I'd say it in my opinion, to career creation. Whereas I've had, in the short time that I've owned my company, I've had guys start from $20 an hour, grow to six figures.
Yeah.
So those things, I've had people work from the beginning of my company to get to a point where they can buy a home. And that's, at the end of the day, that's where wealth is created in America. You either
But not
create
just buy a home, but maintain it, right? More
correct,
than that. Just
correct.
because it's, and we were talking about that a little bit too. It's like this achievement of, oh, I got money, or oh, I've achieved some sort of status. I have this car now, I have this home now, whatever it may be. I mean, that's just really the starting block, right?
Mhm.
I mean, then the gardening begins. I mean, actually gardening perhaps in the backyard, but more metaphorically speaking, I mean, just looking and saying, how do I do this year after year, decade after decade, and turn it into something real, right? A
That's,
life.
that's correct. That's correct. Um, that is one piece of it. I believe that some of the children that of the youth that we're talking about have not had to experience or have not had the ability to really learn how to handle their emotions, how to to modulate their emotions and become resilient. And so I sit on the board of a nonprofit, Equip Our Kids, that's really just focused on social emotional learning and hopefully getting that into the schools. Because the more that children,
If I may interject for a second, because I want to ask that question. You say hopefully get that into the schools. Do we feel, or you feel, like that's not in the schools now at all, or there
it
aren't?
is
It's not. Yeah.
very, very, very low penetration in the
Yeah.
schools. And I spoke with my stepmother about it, and she's with a large charter school. And she said it's a very important thing in which we need to be pushing to get out. Because what it is you teach kids resilience, but you're also teaching them it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to be empathetic to others and their opinions and their thoughts. And again, it gets back to our point of they may see things differently than you, but that doesn't make them wrong. That just makes them different.
Yeah. Empathy has obviously become such a big buzzword these last few years, and rightfully so. But I take it even a step further. I would take it a step further and say, how about more specifically compassion, which is a little different than empathy. I mean, yes, empathize with those, but if you have the compassion for others, what their plight may be, what they're going through, that's a huge difference, and that seems all too often to get lost in the mix.
I agree. Compassion is great. it is a necessity as being you would think, to being a human being, because being human being means that you're being human, and I'm caring about your end, because I believe that we were built to work together to grow communities. That's how all of this came to be. We're not stronger than lions, bears, and tigers, but if we work together, we have the ability to do things. And I think once whatever is going on in America, once we kind of stop and pause for a second and really just think about all of our differences, because those are out there all the time. This is difference. He, she, they, or black or white, or he's rich, he's 1% or he's 99. If we just stop and pause for a second, we'll understand that everything that makes us different is really what makes us the same, because we're all on the same journey.
Love that. And if I may circle back for a moment, you talk about workforce development in Los Angeles. What is that specifically, by the way, that you're working so closely with, and it seems important to you?
It is. It's very important. So, what workforce development is going into the communities, the underserved communities where there are youth of certain ages. I believe right now we're looking at 18 to 24
Mm-hmm.
that are actively looking for careers. Everyone's like, oh man, there are no skilled workers, there are none of this, but you just have to be able to look, because a lot of times these kids that are in these areas, that are in these depressed areas, they think that their only option is to work at a fast food or work at a factory or work at on one of these places where you're not going to have the ability to ascend. And again, there is nothing wrong with people who work in those places. And so I don't want it to sound like I'm denigrating anyone, but for those who are growth minded and they want the ability to level up, they want the ability to grow, both financially and mentally. That's what our hope is as we work with Brotherhood Crusade is.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds so important to you, and it's important to everybody, and it's great that you're doing that, and great that the company is doing that. I hate to say it, but we've run into 30 minutes already. I have like 95 more questions. I could take this conversation in a million different directions, but unfortunately, it's a 30-minute show. Brian Murdock, founder and CEO of All World Communications, you are out there doing it. It sounds like you've created this incredible business already, and you've had this awesome decade long run, obviously, and now you're dare I say paying it forward. That's the best way to put it.
Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to the next 10 years and seeing what we can do and how many lives we can change. So
That'll be great.
excited.
I'm looking forward to seeing it as well. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. Thank you very much for this. This is great.
Thank you.
We'll have you
Cheers.
back. Thank you, Brian.